Michael Jordan. What's the first thing you think of when you hear that name? Is it basketball? Is it the NBA? Is it the Jordan shoe brand? All of these things are pretty much synonymous with that name. You don't think of Kareem or Wilt or Magic when you hear about the NBA's best player. You instantly think of the Bulls number 23. And for good reason. Jordan accomplished multiple things in his career, including 7 consecutive scoring titles, 6 NBA championships on 2 three-peats, 5 MVPs, etc, etc. I could go on and on and on. To help you gain a little bit of perspective, this man was so good that the bootleg version of himself is one of the most recognizable athletes in the world. Crazy, isn't it? The Detroit Pistons. Now, what's the first thing you think of when you hear that name? Naturally, you don't think as highly as them as Jordan. I mean, the man has twice as many championships as the entire franchise does. But this team is one of the primary reasons that Jordan is the GOAT, and not just a Kareem or Wilt or Magic. Basically, what I'm saying is, if this team didn't exist, then Jordan wouldn't be a billionaire. Kobe would be a very different player, and Michael Jeffrey Jordan wouldn't be the greatest player of all time. Of course, you're probably thinking, what? But let me explain.
What we do here is go back.
The year is 1988, and MJ is making a name for the Chicago Bulls as he continues to dazzle the NBA in his 4th year of playing. The 24-year-old star was putting up numbers that hadn't been seen since Wilt Chamberlain, with a league-leading 35 points a game along with both the MVP and the Defensive Player of the Year. He carried his otherwise subpar team to 50 wins and made it out of the first round for the first time in franchise history. Absolutely elated, Jordan and his Bulls felt ready to take on the Bad Boy Pistons, one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. Now, if you don't know about the Bad Boy Pistons, let me run it down for you. You can watch the 30 for 30 documentary on it. It's on Netflix. But anyway, the Bad Boy Pistons were a team centered around Isaiah Thomas and their toughness. Back then, the NBA was a lot more lenient on fouls, and the Bad Boys took full advantage. Even Michael said it himself.
They like to junk up the game, they like to beat you down, hard fouls. If they played today, they'd be flagrant 2s.
Their physical style of play and overall experience in the playoffs won it for them. The Bulls were able to snatch game 2, but the Pistons had a method towards guarding Jordan. They would push him physically and psychologically, playing their patented style of defense, just that it was exclusively focused on Jordan. It wore him out, and the Pistons continued to win the next 3 games. Now, as we all know, Jordan is one of the most competitive basketball players of all time. Anytime this man loses, his grudge toward the team that beat him grows stronger and stronger. The teams also had frequent altercations, which just added to the developing rivalry. The Pistons went on to the finals to go against the Lakers in a 7-game series, but they lost in 7 games. The next season comes around, and Michael continues on his incredible run of scoring titles on an average of 32 points a game. Horace Grant and Scottie Pippen were still coming into their own, so Jordan pretty much carried them again, this time to a 47-win season. The Bulls were matched up with the Cavaliers for the 2nd time in a row, which didn't end well for them.
He gives to Jordan. Jordan to the circle, puts the shot in the air. Good! The game's over!
They then went on to take the Knicks, who they took care of in 6 games. The Bulls' confidence were at an all-time high after upsetting the 57-win teams in such a fashion. They were going to take on the team that dismantled them previously that year, but MJ was ready to take them on. The series started off with the Bulls going up 2-1, where Michael was excelling. He was averaging 35 points and grabbing 7 boards over the likes of Dennis Rodman and Rick Mahorn. Now, if you've ever seen Rick Mahorn, that dude is scary. I don't know how you grab a rebound over him, but hey, MJ did. He's the GOAT. But anyway, Isaiah Thomas and Joe Dumars were frustrated with MJ and his antics. The night after Game 3, they stayed up until 2 a.m. just talking about how to stop this man. From that conversation, the Jordan rules were conceived. For those of you who don't know about the Jordan rules, let me enlighten you. Back then, the Jordan rules were real secretive, basically the Area 51 of basketball. But as the years went on, that changed and the Bad Boys continued to give out their entire game plan. In the words of Chuck Daly, the coach of the Bad Boys, the Jordan rules were this. If Michael was at the point, we forced him left and doubled him. If he was on the left wing, we went immediately to the double team on the top. If he was on the right wing, we went to a slow double team. He could hurt you equally from either wing. He's the GOAT. But we just wanted to vary the look. And if he was on the box, we doubled with a big guy. Anytime he went by you, you had to nail him. If he was coming off a screen, we didn't want to be dirty. What? We didn't want to be dirty, but we had to make contact and be very physical. The plan worked as any plan against MJ could, as he was held to 24 points and an impressive 9 assists, but only on 39% shooting. For comparison, Montelis this season is shooting 40%, which, yeah.
Try!
The Bulls were eliminated in 6. The Bulls have been eliminated twice in a row by the exact same team, and MJ wasn't having it. The former coach, Doug Collins, was fired and the assistant coach, Phil Jackson, took over his spot. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? With the help of the development in Scottie Pippen and Horace Grant, MJ led his team to 55 wins, easily making it to the Eastern Conference Finals, where they faced his nemesis in the Detroit Pistons. Being beaten 2 times in a row, there was no way they could lose again, but they did. Jordan played out of his mind, still being able to average 32 points on 47% shooting, while the Pistons were bodying him the entire time. But it wasn't enough. Perhaps it was the Jordan rules setting in on the 23 in red. Perhaps it was just something that the Bulls didn't have. Whatever it was, MJ was ready to fill it. After losing in Game 7 by almost 20 points, Jordan said that he did this.
When we lost that game, I got on the bus, and I remember my father coming on the bus and back yelling and screaming. And he's doing all his best to try to calm me down and say, it's only a game, you'll be given another opportunity. And I'm saying, well, we've been given so many opportunities, we're not going to get as many as you may think.
But thankfully for the NBA, Jordan did get more opportunities. 6 more, in fact. From then on, Jordan's only goal was the Pistons. He would work day after day, wanting to get stronger. Strong enough to take the brutal bashing he would receive in the paint from the bad boys. He himself would get more physical in his play. But perhaps the biggest change in his game was trusting his teammates. Before, he was a good passer, well, of course, he's the GOAT, and would pass when he really needed to. But if something needed to be done, Jordan would do it himself. Bill Laimbeer, one of the Pistons centers, noticed this.
Until he learned how to involve his other players, he couldn't win, especially against us. Once he started learning that and gave up some control over his ball club to a degree, that's when they started winning.
It also helped that Phil Jackson incorporated the triangle offense, a system that revolves around passing and the team play. Now, of course, if you're going to run the triangle offense, you're going to have to trust your teammates. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. Mellow. With this fresh mentality, the Bulls won 61-21 and easily dispatched anyone who came in their way. Now, for the 4th straight time, the Chicago Bulls and Detroit Pistons faced off. Michael Jordan trying to get back at his old rivals. The Bulls swept them. It seems crazy, I know. It's like Master Roshi from Dragon Ball to Dragon Ball Z, where he seems really strong in Dragon Ball, but then in Dragon Ball Z, Krillin's already twice as strong as him. It's just that the student surpasses the master by so much. The bad boys tried to use the Jordan rules again, but Jordan was too strong for them this time. He used his passes and used his double teams as chances for assists. It was too much for the Pistons to handle, and they didn't take it well. At the end of Game 4 in the final minutes, the entire team walked into the locker room without even acknowledging the Bulls, shaking their hands or nothing like that. Only Joe Dumars and the 5 players on the court stayed. Many people would feel outraged and completely disrespected by this, but not MJ.
To us, it was gratifying. We beat them so bad that they didn't want to shake our hands. That, to me, was an accomplishment. What happened was we just got past that hump, and we never looked back.
When MJ said they never looked back, he was not exaggerating. The Bulls went on to win 3 straight after that, and then another 3 straight. The Jordan shoes started making more and more appearances, and Michael became the GOAT, and he owes it to the bad boys. Of all the teams he ever had to face, they were arguably the hardest one in his entire career. I mean, these guys would flagrantly foul Jordan over and over again, just for him to come back next game to take the same beating. The Pistons taught him not only to be stronger, they taught him to be smarter. You can't win a championship alone, even if your name is Michael Jordan. If Jordan never realized that, if he never realized that he couldn't win a championship on his own, then we would be living in a very different world. One where someone else was the GOAT. One where Michael Jordan wasn't the most recognizable name in basketball. One where the NBA was struggling, or perhaps even bankrupt. But we don't have to deal with that. And it's all thanks to the Detroit Pistons. And that's the end of the... Oh man, that's cliche. Let me not use that. Thank you guys for what... Oh my gosh, that's cliche too. I hope you enjoyed the... Oh my... The RC blows. We're at the end of the video. See, that's original. Let's go. Yay me. But seriously guys, if you're still here, I appreciate y'all. I appreciate y'all a lot. Thank you seriously. If you liked the video, do the obvious thing. And we're out.